You're watching Eye on Africa on France 24. I'm James Creedon. These are the headlines from across the continent this evening. It's decision time for Guinea Bissau's electorate as the country gears up for a presidential election this Sunday. Our reporters went to find out the priorities of voters in the West African country. A severe drought is affecting millions across southern Africa. Food scarcity risks spiking, affecting the livelihood of farmers and the welfare of animals as well as humans. We'll take a look at how some communities in South Africa's Northern Cape province are coping. And Ghana's most illustrious photographer, James Barnor, is in Paris. He has just turned 90 years young. Our reporters went to meet him. More on that later on in the show. Thanks for watching. Now we start in Guinea-Bissau, where the country is gearing up for a presidential election after a period of political tension. Some 700,000 voters will head to the polls this Sunday. They'll choose between 12 candidates, including outgoing President José Maria Vaz and his main political rival, Domingos Pereira. It was one of the poorest countries in the world. People across Guinea-Bissau are hoping this poll might lead to an improvement in their living conditions. In Bissau, Sarah Sacco reports.
It's a particularly busy morning for Sabado. Around 60 patients have dropped in at this local health centre today. As a state midwife, she's worked tirelessly for 15 years, driven by her passion for her job.
I love my job. I adore it. Helping pregnant women is really something that I hold dear to my heart.
A job with low financial rewards and harsh working conditions. Sabado earns 72,000 CFA francs per month, around 100 euros.
The salary is laughable, and it's never paid on time. Sometimes I have to wait 2 months for it to arrive, like now. And I work for the state, but we don't have a salary. The government doesn't hear us, particularly now during election campaign time.
Sabado lives in a suburb south of the capital Bissau with her 3 children and her husband Aruna, a retired civil servant. His pension always fails to arrive on time as well. As the election approaches, he's very bitter about the policies of his country.
Just look where we live. Nothing's been done. Look at the roads. Nothing has been done. All people do is talk. They only look after their loved ones and relatives. Nothing is done. Nothing at all.
20-year-old Sarah is a first-time voter. She's hoping the future president will make education a priority.
I have expectations for the new president to give us better living conditions so that we young people can study and get a job afterwards. We also want a real public university.
Lifting people out of poverty remains one of the biggest challenges facing the future elected president. 2 out of 3 people in Guinea-Bissau live below the poverty line, according to the World Bank, and a third live in extreme poverty.
Ethiopia's ruling coalition on Thursday approved the merger of 3 of its 4 ethnic-based parties into a single national party, this ahead of elections next year. It's part of Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's efforts to unite the country, but one party has boycotted the efforts so far. Now, the manoeuvring illustrates fractures in Africa's second most populous country. Abiy Ahmed, on the one hand, is seeking to unify, while various ethnic groups are pushing for more autonomy. Indeed, Wednesday saw a referendum take place where the Sidama ethnic group voted on the question of more autonomy. Results have not yet been released. Earlier this month, a new political party was founded in Rwanda. It's called Dalfa Umurinzi. That means development and freedom for all. The woman behind it, Victoire Ingabire. She spent 8 years behind bars before being freed by President Paul Kagame. She recently received a Spanish Human Rights Award, but critics in Rwanda say she is destabilising the powers that be. Our correspondent Simon Wolfhart went to meet her. He started by asking her why she created a new party and how she would respond to those critics.
If you go outside the Kigali, the capital of Rwanda, you can see that the population are poor, very poor. And that is why we decide to create Dalfa Umurinzi, because we want that the national wealth benefit all population and all regions in our country. Many countries support the development of Rwanda, but they have to understand that we need democracy to enable the sustainable development in our country.
Just a few days after the announcement of your new political party, President Paul Kagame warned anyone who tried to destabilize the country and those who therefore hide behind democracy, politics and freedom. Did you feel concerned by those words?
I feel concerned regarding the democracy, the freedom, because I struggle for the democracy and the freedom in our country. But I don't agree with the president if he talk about the destabilization. I have nothing to do with the destabilization of Rwanda. If the government of Rwanda can accept to open up a political space, there will be no reason for some Rwandans to take weapons and to begin the war against Rwanda. The opposition has the problem of harassment. You know that I lose some colleagues of me, 6 until today. Some was killed, the other disappearance, and we don't know what happened. We asked the Rwanda Investigation Bureau to do anything. They promised to do anything, but until today, they did not show us who killed these people or the disappearance where they are until today.
Now, the worst drought some farmers have seen in decades is affecting much of southern Africa. Zimbabwe, Mozambique, Namibia and South Africa's northern Cape province in particular are all affected. The United Nations warns that more than 11 million people now face crisis levels of food insecurity, and those numbers could rise to 45 million by the end of the year. Laurent Berstecker has more.
Gertruida Buffel is preparing a mixture of maize and water to feed her farm animals. For weeks, she's had to share her family's food with 2 baby lambs after their mother died of hunger. And while this little one seems to enjoy the meal, his brother wasn't so lucky.
When I came home, the lamb was dead. I'm not sure if it was because we were feeding him maize. I could see he looked sick. The other one keeps on drinking his maize meal, and it's all I can give him because I don't have any money to buy milk.
Like thousands of South African farmers, Gertruida and her family have been severely affected by the months-long drought that has devastated the region. The World Food Programme says southern Africa has received normal rainfall in only one of the past 5 seasons, leaving up to 11 million people facing crisis levels of food insecurity. As famine looms over the northern Cape province, one of the hardest hit areas, the country's national school nutrition program, which provides free meals to students, has become more vital than ever.
The feeding scheme plays a very big role to support the learners, those that don't have something at home. So they are, even when they are at school, they become happy.
South Africa's government recently pledged $2 million to help alleviate the effects of the drought, a fraction of the $28 million farmers' associations say will be needed over the next 3 months.
Next up, a man considered a pioneer of photography in Ghana. James Barnor has just celebrated his 90th birthday, and while he'd been practicing his art for decades, it was not until he was in his late 70s that his photographs gained recognition. Now his work is on display at Paris's Quai Branly Museum, as well as the Nabuke Foundation in Ghana. France 24 caught up with him while he was in Paris.
It's better late than never, as you say. It's better late. Some people don't get it at all, and I have got it.
At age 90, Ghanaian photographer James Barnor still seems somewhat surprised by his own success.
This is a picture of me with the future president of Ghana. This will tell my great-grandchildren that I knew the president who made Ghana independent.
James Barnor has been taking photos since the 50s. He introduced color photography to Ghana. He's worked between his home country and England in fashion as a studio photographer, a photojournalist, and even a technical representative for a big brand. He opened 2 studios in Ghana's capital, Accra, before returning to the UK at age 65.
Honestly, I don't know how to tell my life. For instance, when I returned to Ghana after 25 years or 20-something years and went back to England, I was a cleaner at the airport. You have to have something like a shock absorber. I think that I'm the luckiest man on earth
His work only acquired international recognition in the last decade, but now he's being courted by the most prestigious museums in the world. The Quai Branly in Paris bought 70 of his photographs.
He's both a witness to history, to very important events, and someone whose own life has taken unique turns. He's always been interested in new techniques. He's really someone who experiments and does many different things, and we're still discovering his work and finding out more about his involvement in key moments.
In this Parisian gallery, the photographs are being scanned and organized, with James Barnor there to help navigate through his work.
This is London Street.
James is here to oversee everything. We are building as comprehensive a database as we can. It's difficult to evaluate the number of negatives, but we think there's a total of 80,000 to 100,000 black and white and color negatives.
The artist has packed up his life and moved many times over the years, always taking his many films with him.
But I think I learned the value of negatives right from the beginning. So that also helped me to think that one day, some value will come from the pictures. Whether during my lifetime or not, I don't know.
James Barnor asks only one thing of life now, and that's 5 more years, just enough time to organize his heritage and make sure his photographic testimony of the 20th century is safeguarded and made available for generations to come.
James Barnor there talking to France 24's Maud Julien. That brings us to the end of this edition of Eye on Africa. Thanks for watching.
France 24 es rigurosidad, precisión y responsabilidad. Somos una familia comprometida con el periodismo y la verdad.
C'est une des seules chaînes d'infos où on nous laisse jouer en plateau avec des Legos, avec des robots, avec tout un tas d'objets.
We take a return ticket to revisit some of the key people and places of the last 50 years of world television news.
على فرانس 24 يمكننا أن نحاور أصحاب القرار من العالم في كل الميادين ولدينا المساحة لكشف ثنايا مسيرتهم.
Aquí en France 24 tenemos a varias personas de distintos países, algo que es un reflejo de cómo es Latinoamérica, con culturas muy distintas. Y allí es muy bonito encontrar que en el deporte todos tenemos algo en común.
Les femmes, elles sont souvent victimes de l'actualité internationale, mais ce sont aussi des actrices majeures de la géopolitique. Et d'ailleurs, on en parle dans France 24.
Liberté, égalité, actualité.